Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We are live for another post game edition of Hoops from the Hills. Today, not quite as positive as West Virginia drops the game to Monmouth. That's right. It wasn't to Oklahoma. It wasn't to Houston or Kansas. It was Monmouth. 73 to 65, guys. And it really wasn't even that close, to be honest. Uh, Monmouth looked like the better basketball team, was what's so bad about it to me. But we appreciate you guys stopping in tonight. Um, you know how this thing works. If you want to make sure your comment gets seen, you can drop a super chat where hit the dollar sign in the chat box. It'll highlight your comment. We're more likely to see it, more likely to respond, more likely to put it up on the screen. It's also a way you can support what we're doing here at Hoops from the Hills. But Paul, just real quick, man, what are your thoughts, initial thoughts on this game?
I mean, they had perimeter shooters, and we did. Quinn Slazinski was 50% from the field. But where's Seth Wilson? Where's Josiah Harris? Where's anybody else that can make a shot from behind the three-point line?
Mm-hmm.
I get it, man. This team has been, Josh Allard and these guys have been hit by an almost impossible situation. And then they lost probably their third best player in a Cook. Uh, you know, then, the Kerr thing happens. Still waiting on Raekwon. I mean, I understand that's a difficult situation, but even most Big 12 teams should be able to take care of the 11th place preseason voted, which they look better than that. I'm going to keep it real. They look like a top five team in that conference, but I mean, without seeing all the teams, don't really know that. So on the surface, it looks like we lost to the preseason voted 11th rated team in the preseason to finish 11th in that conference in the second game of the season. Um, that's not where we thought we would be 3 months ago, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot's happened since then. But we're not a good basketball team. We struggled with Missouri State in the first half. This is not a tournament team right now. This is not a tournament team right now. Now, when Kerr comes back, if a Cook gets healthy, which
Mm-hmm.
I've seen you guys arguing about that in the comments. Jacob Yoho, did you say that you heard them say during the game that he was out for the year? Did you hear that? I didn't hear that. Anybody else that might have heard that, please let me know below. But that would be a huge blow.
Yeah, it
Um,
would be.
at the end of the day, though, Quinn Slazinski is obviously a bright spot in all this. I was high on him coming in. I didn't know he would be this good. He could actually play the three, which is what's crazy, as well as he passes it. He can put it on the deck a little bit. Obviously, the way he shoots it, it's really a shame that we couldn't have learned about Quinn Slazinski coming off the bench. Can you imagine how good he would have been coming off the bench behind Trey Mitchell? It is just, I can't help but lament the roster that's not to be here. Uh, and then my one other criticism before I hand it back over to you, Couz, is this. I think Josh Eilert made a huge mistake in an oversight in company. It's not just Josh. In bringing in a guy like Jeremiah Bembry, who's not ready to play this year, I love the pickup of Noah Farrakhan. He would probably be a top 10 player in the Big 12 if he were able to play, but he's not able to play. I told you earlier, it'd be different if he was on a 3 or 4 year deal or something like that, where he had more than 1 year. Recruiting for the future was extremely risky for a guy on a 10-month contract, and his president has openly said, you can make it to the Final Four, and I still might not bring you back. National championship, might have to win that. So you bring in Bembry, you bring in Raekwon Battle, who maybe that was for during the hugs, but even then he was on the staff. And then you've got the big 7-footer that never plays. There's a roster spot that just not being used, even though he's a walk-on. And then you've got several other players who really aren't ready to play yet too. Ofri's really not quite ready yet. So I think it was a mixture of, obviously they were blindsided by the timing of this, and some of this happened in August, so they couldn't get everybody they needed. But you couldn't have found somebody more ready somewhere. It's just hard for me to believe. These guys on Monmouth are both really good players. There wasn't anybody out there. I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about it, but very frustrated, man. I just feel like that a lot of this roster has been wasted for this year. Maybe he really believes he'll be back next year. If he's able to come back next year and coach these guys, maybe it'll be a little different. But overall, really just frustrated. I was griping at you pretty much for the whole back half of the game, so you already know.
Yeah, and that's fair, and that's a fair. I mean, that's a fair criticism. And I've even said, and this staff, and even when Hugs was still here, they took a risk by going out and getting multiple guys who had multiple transfers. You had to think that in the back of their mind, did they not realize there was a chance that those guys would be ineligible? You know what I mean? Then you add into what you just talked about with the the Bembry and not being ready, and they knew that. They knew that coming in, right?
They did, yeah.
Farrakhan
not be able to play.
They knew he, and they said right up front they knew he wasn't going to be eligible. They were recruiting for the future.
Yeah,
it's a fair criticism. Now, you and I have both talked about Eilert. I think has a lot of confidence in himself. He feels like he is going to win the job. I think, and deep down, he feels that way and has a confidence enough in himself and his staff. But it's a big risk, man. I mean, he's basically betting on himself, is what he's done.
Yeah,
and
right. And it could be great. Maybe it turns out to be great.
It could be. It could be. We're only.
But he's going to need. He's going to need these guys to come back.
Yeah, we're sitting here game
and he's
2.
going to need a miracle with Battle. Sorry.
Yeah, he needs a Cook to come back. He needs. Obviously, they've got to try to squeeze out a couple more wins or some, squeak out wins before Kerr comes back, or this thing could go south quickly.
Yeah.
They got some good games coming up. SMU is going to be a tough one. Wisconsin or Virginia. Pitt, St. John's. I mean, dude, this is not a cakewalk schedule here by any means.
No. And the playbook's out on how to guard this team already. There's no shooters on the floor. Mm-hmm. So condense the lane. Good luck getting into the lane. And one guy can make them. Mm-hmm. So you're not. So we'll just double, triple team Jesse Edwards and condense the lane. And okay, so what if Quinn Slazinski goes 3 for 6? He's going to have to go 8 for 16.
Yeah,
which he can't do that every game.
And Seth will have his nights where he'll be able to hit them, but he's streaky. He's a streak shooter. When he gets hot, he's hot. But when he's not hitting, and that's just at least that's what he's shown so far. Now he can prove us wrong, but. And then, something else you and I have talked about, which we've disagreed on, is this comment on the screen from BPA 1985. He says, I don't know why we didn't give Perez another chance by just suspending him. He would help us on offense. He can't fix everything, but I don't get it why we just threw him off the team. I'll give my opinion, and I'll let Paul give his. I think he and I disagree with this, but my opinion is this. There is no way. Josh Eilert already knew because he already knew that Raekwon wasn't eligible. I think. I'm pretty sure that happened after the fact. He already knew Farrakhan wasn't eligible. He knew Bembry probably really wasn't ready to play yet. So why would he – I don't think he would have kicked him off the team with knowing all that were it not absolute necessary. If he didn't do something that was garnered getting kicked off the team, I don't think he would have done it, especially considering Jose had already been here a year. He'd helped recruit some of these other guys. I just think it had to be a pretty big deal or he wouldn't have done it. That's just my thoughts. You want to give your thoughts on it?
Yeah. Based on his other judgment calls, I don't know that that's the case, man. You bring all these guys in with the roster that we have constructed, and only 6 or 7 guys can play. So based on that judgment, I don't know that he is, further going to be making any better calls. This is the first time he's ever done it, man. I mean, Does he even know what it looks like from the head coaching, from basically the making all, I'm making every decision. Does he know what it looks like? I don't know. I don't know if it changes from assistant to head coach. Um, but I'm assuming, looking at the totality of a roster rather than just who you help each day, whether that be the bigs, the guards, you do the X's on offense, whatever it is, going to overseeing all of it and making complete and total changes. They have negative or positive effects, probably a lot more than you would initially realize. The Jose thing obviously happened before Kerr got suspended, right?
Right.
So you don't see that coming. You think, well, I've got two ball handlers now with Kerr and Jacoby, not foreseeing that Kerr is going to get suspended in the future, and you're going to be down to Kobe and Seth. So I think this is where experience comes in, and I think Bob Huggins would not have kicked him off the team. Can't convince me that he would have. So the rumor is that he wouldn't go to class. That's serious. Maybe there was other stuff. I think he'd rubbed some people raw with the social media over the course of time, the holding out, the whole deal. I think he was supposed to have Eilert's back. He was one of those people that kind of said, "Hey, I won't go to the portal," kind of thing. I don't know, but I do think that obviously there's no doubt that he could help us right now. People say, well, he only scored 5 in his first game at Arizona State, but that's a brand new team to him. He practiced with these guys for over a year. So I think that's not necessarily a fair criticism. But yeah, man, I think he needs a great rebounder. He would definitely help. He's very similar to Josiah in that. He would add size, not much defense there, but he's solid in defense. I mean, to me, I think it was a bad move. I think it was an oversight.
Yeah. Fair enough. They did lose to George Mason Scott, but remember when we played George Mason, we had both a cook for most of the game anyway, at least a half, and we had Kerr. Kerr's going to make a big difference in this team. Yeah. I mean, we just can't handle the ball. I mean, let's just look at the turnovers real quick. Well. Yeah. We had 10 turnovers again. Yeah, we had 10 turnovers tonight, which actually ain't awful bad considering what Huggins' teams used to have. But they had them.
It's points
they
off
were live ball
turnovers.
Yeah, they were live ball turnovers though, which Hugs used to always talk about how those were the worst ones because it usually leads to layups. And right. I saw guys dribbling the ball right into the defense. I saw them losing the ball off their, just losing control of the ball. It was just sloppy. You know what I mean? It just wasn't. It was just sloppy, and they need a floor general out there who can run the team, bring the ball up to court, and do those things that a point guard does. Real quick, I'll read the stats out to you guys. Obviously, Jesse Edwards, 16 points, 13 rebounds, another double-double, which is going to be the norm for him. I kind of felt bad for him, to be honest with you, because he was getting very little help. Quincy Lazinski, 15 points, 2 rebounds. Like Paul said, he was 3 of 7 shooting, so just under 50%. That was from 3. Well, from the field, he was 6 of 16, so he didn't shoot very well from the floor overall. And then the only other player in double digits was Kobe Johnson, who had 13 points, but he was 1 of 5 from 3 and was 4-11 from the floor. Just not good. I mean, this team overall shot 22% from 3 and 31% from the floor, and you can't. And 70 from the free throw line. You're not going to win games like that. That simple.
Yeah.
That's simple. And in rebounding,
the field goals, God.
Yeah.
Field goals. 21 for 65.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we were tied in rebounds, which doesn't sound bad, but it was Monmouth.
Right.
Monmouth should not be out rebounding. You know what I mean? Monmouth should not be even with us on the glass, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah.
So, but now I will say this: Monmouth had that Xander Rice kid had 30 points on 9 of 10 shooting from the foul line and 5 of 10 from 3 and 8 of 16 from the floor.
Right.
Just an absolute baller. Guy was making everything, and then Collins had 17 for them. Their leading rebounder was Collins, who he had a double-double as well. He had 10 points. 10 rebounds. That was our biggest two contributors on the night.
Yeah. Agreed.
But,
so back to the thumbnail. Should we panic? Like, let us know down in the comments, guys. Everybody, we got 56 people in here. Let's try to get 56 comments. Just a yes or a no, even. Should we panic? Are you panicking? Do you think there's a chance that we get some guys back? If, let's say, the basketball gods smile on us and we get all three guys that we're praying for. We get Kerr Creasy, we get Cook, and we get Raekwon Battle. Does that change your outlook? Or do you still think this team is going to struggle now that you've seen what it has to offer? Really love to know what you think about that.
yeah.
Good I seen Jacob say this. This earlier. Thanks for the super chat, Jacob. A Cook is out indefinitely, what they said. Yeah, indefinitely doesn't mean forever. That doesn't mean, it just means that they don't know how long, right? So while it looks ominous because indefinitely is usually not a good thing in sports, I think this is a complicated situation that possibly could be dealing with heart or lungs. So, I don't know how they're usually not good outcomes. So probably don't need to count on him coming back, but I'm just saying you got to hope. You got to pray that it happens, right?
That's all we got, right?
Yeah.
Let's hope. And for his own
he
good.
was such a big get for us.
Yeah, and the kid wants to play. I mean, the young man, I should say. He's a grown man at this point. But and John Kelly, you're right. They did look tired, man. And I said that to Paul. And they looked tired early in the game. I mean, like early in the second half, they were walking down the court.
That's game
not a
number
good sign,
2,
man. That's not a good sign. They got to play again Monday night or Tuesday night, whenever the next game is.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I don't know what their practice habits are and if they're going really hard. But surely with a short bench like he's got, he would know better than to run them to death. I mean,
well, he said he's not, but again, I don't know what that entails.
Also, don't know what they do in their spare time.
Right. But I mean, but they're not practicing hard can also make them more rusty. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely.
It's a balance there. You got to decide.
Yeah. You would think he knows what that looks like by now, right?
Right. Absolutely.
17 years in with this team. I mean, you would know what a practice that would be too much. He should be experienced enough to know some stuff. I don't know if him being a first-time head coach, I don't know what things are overrated with that, what things actually matter. Like running a practice is something that I feel like is probably easier to simulate than almost a lot of the other things you're asked to do as a head coach first time, right? I mean, you would learn in 17 years alongside Coach Huggins what works and what don't, you would think, is what I'm saying.
Right.
So I would imagine he knows how to run a practice and keep them fresh by now, hopefully. And you've got 4 other young, energetic coaches that can actually get in there and actually play against these guys. Like if you need to spell a guy, hey, Deshaun Butler, get in there for so-and-so and play for a little bit, and simulate this or that. I mean, they really got a luxury with that. I mean, I don't know if he's asking his coaches to do that. I mean, maybe they don't want to do that, but they could.
Yeah, Scott answered your question. He says we only have a prayer if those guys that's battling the Cook come back. And Curtis, I actually thought the same thing during the game. I'm like, we have a guy on this team in Jesse Edwards who came up who for the last 3 years, if not 4, I don't think he's 4, has played a zone defense, 2-3 zone. Can he not? And now they tried to go to it tonight and got burned on it, but I'm sure they haven't practiced it a ton. Change it up, man. I was thinking the same thing. If you're playing a man-to-man, you're running your guys around a lot. Put them in a zone more, man. Maybe they will going forward, but Jesse should be able to help coach those guys in how to the proper way to play a 2-3 zone. He played under the friggin' zone genius in Jim Boeheim for 4 years. I mean,
Yeah.
that guy runs the best zone defense of any coach in the world, maybe ever. So we got to
Raise your
recognize our
hand
sponsor. Sorry.
Oh yeah. I'll say that real quick though. Raise your hand if Neil Brown and company can make up for this tomorrow. Let's meet
Big
Oklahoma.
time.
I'll feel a lot better about this loss.
Absolutely, man.
Throw it on there real quick.
You go ahead and start reading. I'll pull it up.
Let me get my sponsor
reciting.
voice out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. This episode of Hoops from the Hills is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, Hyundai, Kia, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory all across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com, or you can come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you.
All right. Thank you for doing that. I can't believe you know that by heart. That's bad. I just can't do it. No need to panic. It's still early. JDL, I appreciate the optimism, man, the level-headedness. I've said this multiple times on this show. I said it the other night on the Twitter Spaces we did. I have absolutely zero I'm watching this game with no stress because I have no expectations whatsoever. I've never been in that boat as a fan in my life.
If those guys come back, then I bet that changes.
It will change. Yeah. I actually kind of feel sorry for him a little bit, to be honest. I know that's probably a little, crazy, but these guys have been handed a shit sandwich, man, for lack of a better term. As my boss likes to say in my day job, they're trying to make chicken salad out of chicken poop, and that's hard to do, man.
Tosh, I appreciate this comment, brother. I really do, and I love you. I love you, man, because you're here all the time. You support the hell out of us. But if the legacy guys that we always kind of talk about, now you're talking about Bembury and some other guys like that, but to me, I think Josiah and Seth and Kobe are pretty much at the peak of the outside of a little bit more experience what they're going to become. To me, maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, they've been here for years now, multiple. And I just think, over the course of time, they've seen a lot of minutes, they should have been ready to step into these roles if they were going to be. And I can't get over the fact that somebody close to the situation told me that they suck. I just can't get over it. Somebody in that building that's there all the time told me they suck. And I just can't get past it now, so if that's the case, I don't know, obviously they're playing D1 college basketball. So suck that's a harsh word. I'm being hard on them, but just my expectations were so high for this year a few months back. And I guess just seeing what it is now, even, I still expected these guys to come in and take care of Monmouth. So I'm just kind of let down.
Yeah, and Paul and I were talking about this, during the game. I kind of feel, and I understand where he's coming from, and I understand his point, but those guys, from everything I'm hearing and I've read and heard, and seen on message boards and everything else, those guys have worked hard. The legacy guys, they put time in. They spent time in the gym working on their game. I just don't know if they're talented enough to be starters at the Power 5 level. And that's not their fault if that's the case.
At the Big 12 level, especially.
Yeah, it's Big 12 level. And maybe they are. Now, Josiah, in fairness, he's only a sophomore. He didn't get a lot of playing time last year. I think he still has a lot of growth ahead of him. He could be a really good player, I think. Seth and Kobe, I don't know. Maybe Paul's right and they have peaked kind of. But if they have peaked, let's just say they have. Let's say Paul's right and they've peaked. If they've put the time in that they can put in and they've worked at their game, they've done all they can do. And they've been thrust in a situation where they're not really supposed to be starting in these games. They should be playing 10, 15 minutes a game maybe. And they're
Right.
having to play 30. And
What did
that's not their fault. You know whose fault it is? In my opinion, number one is Bob Huggins for doing what he did. Two, you could say, and just two is you could say the NCAA. You could say the staff for bringing in so many guys that weren't eligible. Whoever you can point the finger, whoever you want to. That's not not the point of this argument. But these guys are being forced to be in a situation where they may not be able to succeed, and it's not. I don't know that it's their fault. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, but it still doesn't take away from the fact of the end result, which
No, I
is
agree
what
with
we're
you.
kind of after.
Yeah.
Not really assigning blame in that category. Like, it's not like they tried to call timeout and there's no timeouts left and we got a technical and we lost the game. That's their fault. If you're just not talented enough to be, a starting Power Five player, that's, I would kill to be in those shoes, to be able to play ball at that level. So, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. I think we have to go forward what we go for. And then here's another point I made to you earlier. If these guys were good enough to play college ball to Power Five level consistently, wouldn't they have transferred already? Like, there's a reason they've been here for 3 years. Number one, they probably love the school. But outside of that, if they were good enough, somebody would have, just like most, hey, you want this bag? We'll give it to you. You're probably going to be a backup there. So I kind of look at it like that a little bit too. The loyalty is, don't want to take that for granted in today's age, but there's also, excuse me, a little bit of a reason for it too.
Yeah. In precise two cases, because that's my point. We have to stop recruiting guys and guess who recruited all of the guys we just mentioned? Bob Huggins, every one of them. So again, that was a Huggins decision. Take that for what it's worth. Daniel Gigax, Monmouth has a Ken Palm ranking of 296 of 362. Whew. Ooh.
I think they're better than that. Honestly, the eye test from watching that game tonight, I mean, they were picked 11th in the Colonial Athletic Association. I don't think they'll finish 11th. But I mean, are they going to win the thing? Are they Charleston? Are they Drexel? No, I don't think they're that good either. They've got two really good players that could probably play at the Power Five level. And unfortunately, they locked up one of our two tonight that was playing well enough to do anything.
Yeah. And by the way, too, to be fair to the guys that we're criticizing here, they're having to learn a new system, a new offensive system. And again, it's under a coach who has no experience as a head coach. So there's just so much working against these guys, man. That's why I don't have a lot of expectations for them. And
Yeah.
and through all the criticism, I love every one of them. They all wear the WV across their chest. I love every one of them, and I hope they all are successful, and I hope they all prove me wrong. But from the way it's looked the last couple of games, I'm starting to, I'm just starting to wonder, do they really have it? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it would be nice if we can get I mean, we just need really one more guy to step up, I think, to tread water. You know, I just don't know who it is. I mean, obviously, we've got Jesse and Slazinski. These guys are both bigs. Like I said earlier, Slazinski could play the three. His passing is advanced. He has a really, really high basketball IQ. He knows where to put the ball. He knows how to spot it as well. And he's not throwing passes like they're not behind guys. Man, he's leading them and they're right in the pocket. And I was really impressed with his passing tonight. He threw a no look pass to somebody tonight. I mean, he's 6'10" almost. Um, so I really do. I really think Slazinski's going to have a breakout year just as a result of all this craziness. But man, we need one more guy, just one more guy, and it needs to be a guard. Unfortunately, You can't win in college basketball without good guard play. And our good guard is on the bench, served a
Yeah.
suspension.
2 of them, actually.
And yeah, and well, 3 of them if you
Yeah.
count Faircon.
Yeah. And Earth Eater, I agree with your comment there, but in basketball, maybe more than any sport, talent means a lot. It does.
Yeah,
Talent, athleticism, ability. Obviously, heart and effort and all that goes a long way as well. And West Virginia's had players over the years that prove that. But at the end of the day, the team with the most talent typically wins games. Period. It's just the way it is. See, get some other comments here. We're not going to be on here late tonight, guys, but I do want to get to a few of these. Josh was put in a bad situation. Yep. NCAA and the rules is a huge part of it. And by the way,
but
Curtis, go ahead, Paul.
no, you're good. Go ahead, finish your sentence.
I was going to say I saw this comment too by Curtis. It says, I have a feeling we'll hear something on Battle next week. For you guys that may not know it, Bloomberg Magazine actually wrote an article today highlighting Raekwon Battle and his situation, kind of went after the NCAA about not letting these kids play because, they say they're all about the health and well-being of the student athlete and all this. But then these kids who have supposed mental health issues that need basketball in their lives, like a Raekwon Battle, they're not letting them play. You know what I mean? And they touched on the another interesting piece. And I'll let you. Sorry, I'll let you speak your piece in a second.
No,
they also
I'd actually changed my mind to what you were saying.
Oh, they actually in that article they also touched on the antitrust piece. These kids can't go out and get NIL deals if they're sitting on the bench. So
right.
They're not only are they hurting them from a mental health standpoint potentially, they could also be hurting them and not giving them a chance to earn money for themselves and possibly their families. And you've got some of them who come from very poor families,
right?
And the NCAA is basically they're basically a bunch of hypocrites at the end of the day, and that's kind of what Bloomberg thinks that guys should be able to transfer as many times as they want to. I don't necessarily go that far. I do think there's a middle ground, but for these guys like Raekwon and others that transferred before they changed the rules back, they should let those guys play. There shouldn't even be a question.
Yeah.
But anyway, now you go ahead and say what you were going to say.
Well, back to what he said about, Josh being thrust into a bad spot. It works both ways, though, to me. Josh pulled the trigger on Jeremiah Bembry. He pulled the trigger on Noah Farrakhan. Mm-hmm. He pulled the trigger on the big guy that kind of plays with Jesse in practice. So in Offrey as well, the guy that's not ready. So
physically, he's not physically ready.
Physically, right?
In my opinion.
So there was, I don't know the landscape, and maybe these were all the only guys they could get. I heard though there were other guys they could have got that were more ready with not as much ceiling. So I just think it's back to what you said, though. He believes in himself and that he was going to get more than these 10 months to coach these guys. Maybe you have to approach it that way. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I think that's something to be at least under the microscope is he brought in some players that just aren't ready to play right now, and we're playing with 6 or 7 guys. Maybe he couldn't have foresaw what happened to a Cook and Kerr. Maybe that's true.
Right.
But the other, that's where discernment comes into play, and being a head coach for a long time is a benefit, right? Because would Hugs have made the same choices? Hard to say.
Well, the Cook and Creaser thing, there was no way to know those because they didn't. I mean, the Cook thing was obviously a health situation. Now, did he already have a heart issue before? I don't know. I guess that's fair to ask. I want to read this. I want to read this super chat before we get to the troll. Thank you, Sasquatch 304 for the super chat. He says, with all that has gone on through the offseason, I'm just glad we have a team to watch. I'm looking forward to seeing Offrey Neve develop. And that's kind of the angle I'm taking too, Sasquatch. Like Paul and I have talked, my opinion could change throughout the year. I could get more frustrated or whatever. But as of right now, I'm just like, you know what, man, this sucks. They're not playing well. They need to get better. But you know what? With the hand they've been dealt, it's hard to expect anything else. I mean, that's just kind of how I feel. But did you want to comment on that at all?
Thanks for the super chat, man. I really do appreciate that. Obviously, I think Offrey, as long as we can keep him,
Yeah.
going into next year with that training staff that they have, I don't know exactly what it looks like now that Hugs is gone. Weight room, obviously, he was willing to put weight on guys. I'm excited about the potential of, and here, look, there's always two sides to it too, right? If Battle don't play this year, he gets to play next year, and all these guys have already transferred once except Offrey. So that means if Bembry can get a year better, if Battle can get a year better, and if Noah Farrakhan gets a year better with Offrey, you're talking about a strong core for somebody next year. It may not be Josh. I don't know. But so, yeah, to your point, though, I think Neve could be a really, really key contributor if he can just put on 30 or 40 pounds, maybe 20 pounds. I don't know what he needs.
Yeah.
And just gets his strength up for this level. Maybe it takes more than a year. I don't know.
He gets pushed around. I mean, he does. He can be.
He's
in the right.
Need is functioning strength.
Yeah, he's in the right spot. He's doing the right things. He just physically is getting. I don't want to say bullied. It's not that extreme, but he's getting pushed around a little bit. Even the night against Monmouth, he was getting pushed around. Need to lower expectations. Yeah, I mean, I said I shouldn't have called you a troll. I shouldn't have called you a troll, John, because I actually kind of agree with you, but not necessarily in this game. We should be able to beat Monmouth, but I don't have real high expectations. I expected us to go 6-3 during this first 9 games with Kerr out. Right now, that's looking doubtful.
Right. We get all those guys back, and even Pitt be in trouble. I mean, if we had all our guys with Kerr, a Cook, and Raekwon, I put us right up against them. But without them, obviously we're not in a good best spot. Kind of like it might look a lot like how when Pitt came to Morgantown this year, they were just not prepared to compete against us. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. This may not be the year to be patient with the coach. He may have discussed with Hugs. Who knows? You never know. Never know. Altosh, you talking about the Bloomberg article? Yeah, there's a little trick I learned on an iPhone where you can read an article without paying for it at times. But with the Bloomberg article, though, I didn't have to do that because it gave me one free one. And that was my free
didn't
one.
give it to me.
It didn't?
No. I actually meant to ask you to take screenshots of it for me.
But I will. I'll do that for you. Well, guys, I don't really know. I don't really have anything else personally to say about this game. I think we've kind of covered it. Paul, do you have anything else you want to say before we sign off?
Well, I just real quick, I know I came down hard on some of the players and stuff, and I want it to be known. I love these guys, man, and it's just that at the end of the day, as fans, we want to get on here and talk about a win, and we are fans at the end of the day, so it's not like I have any power or control of the situation, but I don't want it to come off like I dislike these kids or anything. It's just my passion comes out the way it comes out. So,
well, and we have to be. I think as content creators and YouTubers, we have to come on here and speak we have to say what we think. We have to be honest,
right?
And if we're not,
hey, let's get a win tomorrow, man.
People will.
Let's get a win tomorrow.
Stay positive and support the players.
7 o'clock.
Hold on. Stay positive and support the players. Yeah, man. I think we are. I mean, like Paul just said, we can express our frustrations, but at the end of the day, we're always going to support the guys. We're also always going to be there watching. Caleb Davis in the house. Thank you for the super chat, my man. He says, I want to thank Bob Huggins for tonight's performance. By the way, did y'all see where Huggins was tonight, by the way?
I did.
He was at the Radford Marshall game at the Greenbrier Resort to support Darius Nichols, which is fine. I mean, that's not a thing wrong with that. But I just thought
be careful. They might offer Radford. Darius better be careful. Radford might offer Bob Huggins that job.
And I would imagine Governor Jim Justice was probably there. So I'm sure I've heard he and Bob are pretty good friends. So that's the kind of circles he runs in.
Two highest paid guys in the state, huh?
Pretty much.
Two richest guys in the state, just about.
NCAA is killing us. If we knew ahead of time, it'd be nice. No gray areas. Yeah.
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 Right.
A win tomorrow would really help us. And I'm not going to lie, even though I picked against us in my preview video, I kind of have a good feeling about tomorrow, man. I don't know why. Do you?
Well, I mean, they're on the back end of two. They're on the back end of two losses. That only happens one or two. Now, listen, Norman in prime time is historically, they're like, I think they're in the 90% range on victories. All time. Last 20 years, they're like 96, 97% win percentage at night in Norman. So that is, I have reverence for that. Just like going to Fog Allen, I got reverence for that. I respect their stadium and what it actually doesn't get talked about enough. How great of a home field advantage they have there. It gets overlooked a lot when it's talked about. But so I think that's probably, to me, the one of the top 3 or 4 factors just that our team is going to deal with is that crowd. They know the Sooners, basically their season's on the line in this game. So, not like last week where even with another loss, you're still in the hunt. With this loss, they're out of it, and they know it. And unfortunately, Dylan Gabriel is going to be a problem for us. That's my biggest, out of everything else in the game. Dylan Gabriel is a weapon, with his legs. He's extremely strong. I told you that. You shouldn't have asked me, Couz. So I'll go off on another rant. I had to slow myself down there. But I do think we can win the game. We just have to play our ball, right, which is clock control and winning on first down. I think that's the biggest thing. If we win on first down, this I think we'll be all right. Because we run obviously in our zone, they're going to want to try to get in those soft parts of the zone. If we get them backed up, that's going to be tough. So,
yep, agreed, totally agree. All right, guys, we don't really have anything else to say. Yeah, and it might be the last time we ever play Oklahoma, potentially ever. So I'd like to get a win, but it's 10:11 p.m., guys. I'm ready to call it a night. I appreciate everybody jumping on here, taking time out of your lives to listen to Paul and I talk about what we love, and that's West Virginia sports, man. It's our passion. This is our hobby, man. This is what we do. But for Paul, it's his career. So if you guys, anytime you can support us, likes, comments, that all helps the YouTube algorithm, helps get more people watching. Anytime you can make donations, all that stuff helps us out, guys. But nonetheless, we appreciate it, whether you're watching, liking, subscribing, commenting, donating, whatever you're doing, guys. We appreciate it all. I wanted to let you guys know that. And we will be back for another one of these at some point in the very near future. And hopefully, the next time we see you guys, we will be talking about Raekwon Battle's waiver appeal getting approved. Let's keep our fingers crossed. And yes, like Tosh said, don't forget to hit the like button on your way out. We are out. We are done. Let's go Mountaineers, Q Country Roads, and good night.